Okay, good morning everybody. I'd like to thank everybody very much for coming along this morning, especially those of you who've had to take time off work to come along. But I hope this is going to be an interesting morning for everybody. I'm just going to very quickly talk you through what's going to happen this morning. The reason we're here is to present a challenge to Sally Morgan, the self-described psychic who claims she's able to communicate with people who've passed away. Ms. Morgan has informed us through her lawyers that she will not be taking part in our challenge this morning, although we understand that she is in the city and we very much hope that she will change her mind. If at any point that Ms. Morgan does decide to make an appearance, we'll be calling an immediate halt to proceedings in order to just proceed with the challenge. In the meantime, we're going to hear from three speakers. First, Dr. Simon Singh will be talking about how this challenge has come about. This will be followed by Professor Chris French on the scientific investigation of psychics. And finally, Michael Marshall will be discussing the future of our Psychic Halloween Challenge. After each speaker, there will be a brief opportunity for questions with a longer segment for questions at the end if you have any. Professor French, Dr. Singh, Mr. Marshall and myself are all skeptics. And this is a term which is very easily misunderstood. We are not habitual doubters or contrarians or naysayers looking to spoil everybody's fun. Rather, we use the term to refer to our use of the principles of scientific skepticism. This means that when somebody puts forward a claim, be that about an alternative medical practice or somebody's ability to talk to the dead, of course, we will look to investigate that claim using the tools of scientific inquiry. That is logic, reason, observation, critical thinking, and thus come to some provisional conclusion about the veracity of that claim. For example, if a friend told me that they had a pet dog, I would very likely accept that claim on their word alone, because I know that dogs exist and I know that some people keep them as pets. And so to imagine, therefore, that my friend keeps a pet dog is no real stretch. But if the same friend claimed to me that he kept a pet dragon, I'd at least want to see the dragon before I accepted his claim. Sometimes we do find good evidence for our dragons. Other times the evidence will be lacking. But scientific skepticism teaches us to follow the evidence and look at the facts and care more about what we can reliably show to be true than what we might like to be true. If there is a real phenomena here, if people are genuinely able to talk to the dead, then it has profound consequences for the entire world. It would also likely mean Nobel Prizes for everybody sitting here in this room and a place in the history books, as the people who produced the first rigorous scientific proof that psychic phenomena are real. Dr. Singh, Professor French and myself will all tell you the same thing, that we are more interested in discovering the truth than we are about whether we are personally right or wrong. And that is what being a skeptic is all about. So now I'm going to hand you over to Dr. Simon Singh, who is going to talk about today's challenge. Simon?
Great, thank you very much. I can get rid of the first 2 minutes of what I was going to say, because that was absolutely crucial and important and very well explained. We're not relentlessly negative, we're purely trying to get to the truth, and that's the point of the challenge today. Not to prove that Sally is psychic, not to prove that she's not psychic, but to find out one way or another if she's psychic. That's all we're trying to do. My background's really in maths and physics, and that's what I've written about in the past, but I got interested in this area when I met Professor French, and we did a little experiment, which I might try with you now, which I'm going to try and transmit a number to you, telepathically. So all play along, please do play along. I'm thinking of a number. This may go horribly wrong, but we'll try it. It's less than 50. It's got 2 digits. The digits are odd, but different. So it can't be 11, because 1 and 1 are the same, but it could be 13. So please think of a number, have it in your heads. If you've got the number, hands up if you came up with the number 35 or 37. Okay, over half the audience. So I put down 35 first, but then I crossed 37. So anyway. People are kind of blown away by that, but we're in a room of skeptics, so people are kind of not so impressed. So it's called a population stereotype, that people, for some reason, like the number 7, and they maybe don't like teeny numbers, so they go for the 30s, and then 37 jumps to your mind, and if it's not 37, it's almost typically 35. And if you can do this test, people are kind of blown away. How do you know this happened? And so we did an experiment on live television for Tomorrow's World, And we did it with the entire nation, and thousands of people rang in saying they got the number 37, and very few people rang in with other numbers. But before we did it live on television, we did it in a radio studio where I pretended to be a psychic that was being tested in Chris's lab, and we had an audience of about 200-300 people. And at the end of the same result, loads of hands go up. They're all convinced that they were thinking of the same number I'm thinking of. I was actually thinking of 19, I think. As part of the test, you have to think of a completely different number to make sure you're not psychic. But then at the end, we debriefed everybody. We said, look, actually, I'm not a psychic, and this is a preparation for a TV show. And so we didn't want to leave anybody with a false belief. Then as we left, I can remember people on the end of the aisles would stop me and say, look, that was extraordinary. I know that you really do have powers, don't you? And I could see how people could believe in these powers because of tricks like that, or because of coincidence, or because of people who might have very good intuition that might come over as being psychic, or maybe because people really are psychic. So that was the point of today's challenge, to answer that question one or the other, or to find good evidence for it one way or the other. But that was gosh, about 10 years ago that we did that experiment. I recently became interested because of what happened in Dublin back on, I think, 11th of September, when a couple of people said that they'd heard somebody with a voice giving information, which then Sally then repeated later on stage. And three people rang into RTE in Dublin with this story. And of course, Sally strenuously denied it. The theatre strenuously denied it. There was another explanation as far as they were concerned. I then managed to contact two of the callers, and they were adamant about what they'd heard. And what they'd heard seemed to be incompatible with the theatre's account and Sally Morgan's account. And yet Sally Morgan and the theatre were still adamant about their approach. So this is just a mystery. It doesn't mean anything particularly, we just have two conflicting views. And so how do we get to the bottom of that? Well, one way that we don't get to the bottom of this is by libel threats, which seem to be emerging from Sally's solicitors at the moment. All that does is it just crushes debate. It crushes discussion. Sally herself on her website has said many times, and in public has said many times, that she wants to be questioned, that she likes the idea of skeptics, that people that doubt her, because this is a wonderful gift for her and she wants it to be understood and explored. So in that spirit, if you see what I mean, the idea was to say, look, forget what happened in Dublin. Nobody really knows what happened in Dublin. The key issue is, do you have a genuine psychic ability? And that's why we're here today. And that's why we're still, fingers crossed that Sally will join us. Then, I suppose the other question that people have asked is one was, why now? Why Sally Morgan? But the other question which people have asked is, what's the harm? Why bother looking into this? And I think there are three reasons that I'll just briefly run through. One is that it's a matter of scientific interest. This is a profound gift. It shatters the laws of physics, and therefore, if somebody's making these claims, we want to understand them from a scientific point of view. Secondly, there's a financial implication here. This is a business. This is psychic stage shows turn over millions of pounds every year. We have psychic phone lines. We have psychic text lines. And we should know whether or not the people on the stage or the people on the other end of the phone are genuine, almost from a purely trading standards point of view. I texted Sally's text line last week, and it was £1.50 per pop. And the first text I sent, and this may not be reflective of the general quality of those texts, but my text to her text hotline was, will Spencer make a success of his life if he continues to live with Christine? Now, Spencer is my sister's dog. Christine is my sister. Text comes back, success comes from what one feels they have within. The value that Spencer places on what he feels is successful compared to the view of Christine is on different levels. At this time, would you mind sharing the dates of birth for each to allow me to channel in better on the issues surrounding the two? That's great. I mean, it's lovely she wants more information from me. I think that's very kind and touching of her. But another £1.50 goes down the drain as I send that information. And we exchange a couple more similarly kind of bland emails. So £3 for what I don't believe is genuinely psychic. The people on the other end of the text might feel they're genuinely psychic. To me, this doesn't indicate that. The following day, out of the blue, I get another text from the psychic trying to engage me again. 24 hours again later, I get another text trying to hook me back in. This is a money spinner, and we just need to know if the psychics are real or if the psychics are not real. So 1, it's scientific curiosity. 2, it's about trading standards. And 3, it's about an ethical and emotional issue. I accept that when some people see some psychics, they do feel comfort, that there is something there that can be positive. But there's also a risk of something that can be negative. I've blogged about this recently, but I've seen Sally perform 2 shows in the last month. And in both shows, I think there were 2 readings to people in the audience that I thought were genuinely disturbing. One concerned a spirit on the stage who had committed suicide, and Sally linked with somebody in the audience, and the spirit then said how angry they were about the fact they'd had to commit suicide. Now, I don't think that brought comfort to the person in the audience. The spirit then said 4 times they tried to commit suicide. Again, I don't think that brought comfort to the person in the audience who was unaware of that. Had they missed cries for help? Should they pass this on to their family? What did this mean? I don't think that, well, unless Sally has genuine powers, which she's willing to demonstrate, this raises concerns for me. The theatres often label this as entertainment, or they label it as a scientific experiment, but it doesn't fit those qualities for me. So for me, those are the reasons why we're here today, and I'll leave it there.
Does anyone have any questions for Simon?
Yeah, I'd just like to highlight something. You said the text you sent through was regarding the dog, so you actually misguided the whole text as what you sent through. And you were anticipating that Sally was going to come back and say, was this a dog we're talking about or a human being?
Oh no, I didn't say it was a human being. I left it very open.
No, you didn't. You left it open for her to guess. So in actual fact, what you were sending through was the wrong message anyway.
But when you say guess, is there guessing that happens at the other end, or is it psychic ability?
But I think the answer came back in the correct way anyway.
Yeah.
Because she still didn't interpret anything different. But the fact that you sent it through was you were putting her in a position where she had to try and...
Yeah. I think one of the reasons, areas for doubt in this is that if I said, will my sister's dog have a happy and fulfilled life with her, then the person, could have come back and said, yes, Spencer is a lovely dog, and he's very happy, and he enjoys the environment, and Christine's a very kind owner, and she clearly loves him, and he's going to, and that would have been fine. I wouldn't have known anything further about whether that person had genuine psychic ability. Had that person come back and said, I sense that Spencer is a dog, and therefore, then I would go, wow, that's kind of interesting and important. So it was a little bit of a test, but it was a test that they didn't really pass. Now, I'm not saying they failed, but I want to know that these people can deliver something. Would you not agree that if somebody was selling you a product, you'd want to know whether that product worked?
I understand that. I've sat in the audience of Simon and listened to some interpretations that have come back. What I'm suggesting is the fact that I wouldn't feed any false information. Being a skeptic as I am in any case, it's always been a fact that a yes and no would be my reply in order to get more information fed back to me. Yeah. But on my observation,
I would never give false information either. So that's why I left it open ended. But thank you.
The scientific investigation of psychics, and finally Michael Marshall will be discussing the future of our Psychic Halloween Challenge. After each speaker there will be a brief opportunity for questions, with a longer segment for questions at the end if you have any. Professor French, Dr. Singh, Mr. Marshall and myself are all skeptics, and this is a term which is very easily misunderstood. We are not habitual. Okay, good morning everybody. I'd like to thank everybody very much for coming along this morning, especially those of you who had to take time off work to come along. but I hope this is going to be an interesting morning for everybody. I'm just going to very quickly talk you through what's going to happen this morning. The reason we're here is to present a challenge to Sally Morgan, the self-described psychic who claims she's able to communicate with people who've passed away. Doubters or contrarians or naysayers looking to spoil everybody's fun. Rather, we use the term to refer to our use of the principles of scientific skepticism. This means that when somebody puts forward a claim, be that about an alternative medical practice or somebody's ability to talk to the dead, of course, we will look to investigate that claim using the tools of scientific inquiry. That is logic, reason, observation, critical thinking, and thus come to some provisional conclusion about the veracity of that claim. For example, if a friend told me that they had a pet dog, I would very likely accept that claim on their word alone, because I know that dogs exist and I know that some people keep them as pets. And so to imagine, therefore, that my friend keeps a pet dog is no real stretch. But if the same friend claimed to me that he kept a pet dragon, I'd at least want to see that. Ms. Morgan has informed us through her lawyers that she will not be taking part in our challenge this morning, although we understand that she is in the city, and we very much hope that she will change her mind. If at any point that Ms. Morgan does decide to make an appearance, we'll be calling an immediate halt to proceedings in order to just proceed with the challenge. In the meantime, we're going to hear from three speakers. First, Dr. Simon Singh will be talking about how this challenge has come about. This will be followed by Professor Chris French on the